Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
it!
Another
one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle. Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door. And, of course, the array of Endeavor restaurants in and around the Bloomington area, whether it's BB's Market or Feast Market, Southern Stone, many others, including the Ugly Grouper down on Amelia Island in Florida for all you Floridians. How's it going? It is Wednesday, April 5. Another great program in store for you. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Might have Colin Hartman on today. I have not finalized that yet, or he hasn't responded back to me. We'll see. But we've got plenty to talk about. Indiana basketball announcing they will be participating in the Empire Classic next year at Madison Square Garden, which is just it's a place that you need to go if you haven't been. It's a bucket list place, man. It's so many things have taken place at Madison Square Garden. It's where Marilyn Monroe sang "Happy Birthday, Mr. President." All of the great sporting events, the boxing matches. Coach Mike
I didn't
Woodson,
realize
of course,
this wasn't already announced. I thought we already knew they were going to the Empire Classic a few months ago.
I thought so too. I don't know why everybody's
official.
acting. I guess because I'm like, is this deja vu? Because I thought I already knew that. But
It must have not been official. It's the only thing I can think of.
it's something to announce again. Who knows? But it'll be fun now. Well, I partly because I think UConn is in it, and they just won the national championship, and
You got
Texas,
UConn, yep,
and Texas, and then you've got Louisville for a draw. Of course, their season was crap, but they've got a lot of recruits coming in, a lot of top recruits. So we'll see how that changes things. Maybe they hit the portal, some as well. Indiana's going to be a different looking team, obviously. They're going to have 7 new faces on the roster by then. Some of those have already, we know who they're going to be, whether it's Gabe Cupps, Ja'Kai Newton, Peyton Sparks, of course, but there's still 4 faces that calendar still has 4 blank spaces on it. Jalen DeRoach, I saw that he is scheduled to visit from VCU, 6'9" sophomore. Of course, we already know about Caleb Love that Indiana is chasing, and I believe that they have a Zoom call with him coming up. Mike Rhodes left VCU to take the position at Penn State, which Penn State is one of the schools that Jalen is looking at as well. So, but I looked at the schools that he's looking at: Miami, San Diego State, Indiana, Penn State, where his coach went, VCU, where he currently is, and Florida State. That's an odd one for me. That's an outlier. I'm like, what the hell? Unless that's where he's from, which I don't see exactly where he's from, but so you got that. You've got Caleb Love. Indiana needs 2 wings without question, and I think they can use another guard, but everybody has to be able to shoot the ball. You have got to have everybody that can shoot the ball. Now, how's everybody doing? Hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often. Pete saying hi from Shakopee. Is that how you say that? Or Shakopee? How you say that?
I would say Shakopee. I didn't realize my microphone was off.
Yeah, Shakopee. Robert asking, do I believe Louisville stays down forever? Well, no. But I don't think that they're automatically just going to be right back next year either. But no team should stay down forever now. It's too easy to get back with the portal. You see with teams that no one expected the teams to go the length in this tournament that went, because there's a lot more teams that are talented than people realize. For one thing, you don't get to see them all, but also because it's the blue blood thing. And I'm going to keep having this discussion. I do not consider UConn a blue blood. It has nothing to do with the number of titles. If you look up the word blue blood in the dictionary, what is it? What is the exact?
It says something. We looked this up the other day. It says something along the lines of
it's about historics. It's about
something
doing
about ancient rulers and stuff like that, which is, when you're thinking of it in the context of basketball, when you think of ancient rulers, as silly as that sounds, it's the guys who have been around longer, the guys who were on top 30, 40 years ago, even beyond that, if you want to go that far.
Noble birth. It's basically like a royalty kind of a thing. But the reason I'm saying that UConn's not a blue blood is because they've done what they've done in this short span. They're like a blue blood is like a owed money, is what you call owed money.
Yeah.
Families have had money for, they've just been, that's a blue blood. Indiana won their first national championship in 1940. Kansas won their first national championship in 1940 something else. Indiana beat Kansas to win that first national championship. Kentucky wins their first national championship in like 1951 or something. Indiana wins their second national championship in 53. Kentucky wins again. Kansas is winning in the 50s, the 60s. Indiana's winning in the 70s, the 80s. These are long time. So no, UConn is not a blue blood. They do not fit the definition of a blue blood. It has nothing to do with success. That's like calling someone who wins the lottery tomorrow, oh, they're a blue blood. Well, no, they're not. Were they a blue blood a week ago? No. And now all of a sudden, you don't become a blue blood in a day because you won the lottery. Now you have money. It does not make you a blue blood. And I know it's been 24 years, but that's not. I call them new bloods. They're just new bloods. They're in their own category, as a matter of fact, because what they've done is almost spectacular in what they have done is spectacular in their own right. Not only have they won 5 national titles in 24 years, they've done it in 3 completely ways with 3 completely different coaches and 3 completely different styles. That is amazing to me. That's more amazing to me than what the Blue Bloods have done, to be honest with you. That's more amazing to me than what Indiana has done. That's more amazing to me than what Kansas has done. That's more amazing to me what North Carolina has done. But that's just my take on that.
Well, some people are just stuck on the fact by saying that if you don't call them a blue blood, it means you're saying that they're not one of the top programs in college basketball. That's not at all what we're saying. That's
their tough luck. They need to learn the definition and go pull up a Webster's dictionary. just got to find a new term for them. I call them new, like I said, new.
I
blood.
like the term new blood. I think it's creative.
They're in a category all their own.
I mean, they're all said this a million times already. Only them and Duke have won 5 national titles in a span of less than 25 years.
And Duke borders on probably blue bloods because they started their run at least in the 70s. They won.
But they didn't win their first national title since 91, though, correct?
Well, they didn't win it. Oh, that's right. They lost to Kentucky in 78. But they were playing. They were, it was going. So there's that. But that's just my take. That doesn't mean jack. That's just my
plus,
opinion.
Krzyzewski, we've talked about this too. All of Duke's championships came under Krzyzewski. UConn's done it with 3 head coaches.
Yeah, it's amazing. Indiana did it with 2. We'll see if they can do it with 3.
Yeah.
Andy Moore Honda Hotline. People are hitting that up. Let's see. Jared asked, who's my Masters pick? Man, I've been asked that a couple times in the last 2 days, and I'm like, man. First of all, let's talk about the not NIL, damn it. Too many acronyms. The LIV versus PGA in this. I've seen a lot of comments, about the Champions Dinner. Fuzzy's asked, saw Tommy Zeller last night, Fuzzy Zeller's brother, and I asked him if he was going to the Champions Dinner. Said, oh yeah, he's down there the whole week. So he's down there already. But someone said that maybe they should make sure that the live players all sit at their own table. Nick Faldo suggested maybe they better use plastic forks and knives. I'm like, really, guys? It's just kind of funny. But it's going to be interesting. What happens is if a live golfer wins this thing? And they want that desperately. Those of the 18, I think, that are playing from the live tour. But I do not think that they don't want to win this desperately. Just stick it to the PGA. I still picking a winner. John Rahm is always hard to pick against. He's always up there. Cameron Smith, though, he played so cool at the British at the Open last year. So calm that he might be. I could see him being the guy that could come in and do that for the live tour. But that course it's a tough one, and they've lengthened a couple of the holes. They lengthened one of the par 5s, for God's sakes. Jared says, Mr. Jared says, Roy is supposed to play a practice round today with DJ and Brooks. Well, that'd be interesting. Very interesting, since Roy's been one of the most outspoken PGA golfers. So there you go. Michael asked, is there a chance that I could get Adam Schneck on as a guest here in the near future? Well, you got a phone number for me. I'll reach out to him. Anybody can win a major. That's what I've seen, but you've got to have, you've just got to have that nerves of steel, I think, to win those majors. Jared says Scotty or Rahm are his picks. How can you not pick either? But dark horse is Max Homa. Yeah, I can't disagree with you. We've got lots more to get to. We'll talk more about the Masters as it gets started tomorrow. I think was it par 3 tournament today, I believe. We'll check on all that, but lots going on, and we've got a great lineup for you. Bob Kravitz up next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Brock with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
All right. There's Mr. Kravitz.
Wow.
He's dressed in his Sunday Reds on a Wednesday.
He looks like he's the devil.
I've been called worse. Evil incarnate, face of evil.
Man,
I'm sure those are the Twitter people, right?
Actually,
on Twitter.
Bill Polian, Bill Polian used to call me face of evil.
Oh, there's Jim's
it's not
devil
your
horns.
it's not your face. It's just that you got the devil suit on with the red Adidas hat, and the red.
Yeah, check it out, Indiana hockey.
Oh, nice.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
You are looking at one of the most mediocre players who ever played for Indiana hockey.
Hey, I'm this close to being mediocre. Period in life. I'm just this close.
We all need goals, there, Jim.
Yeah, these are my AC/DC horns. Man, these are like 13 years old, I think.
Very nice.
Oh yeah. How about that?
It's a good look. Oh, and it lights up.
Oh yeah, it does. Still works after 13 years.
Where was that show at? Was it from
Freedom
a concert?
Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky.
Freedom Hall. Wow. They don't do many shows in there anymore now that they have the Yum Center. They still do some now and then, but not as much as they used to.
AC/DC. The original, or except for the lead singer, Bon Scott. What's new with you, Mr. Roberto?
It's a really slow time of year right now. It's I'm just fighting to come up with columns. It's just, the Colts don't start up until April 10th, and then we got all the pre-draft shit, and then there's just not much going on. The Pacers are finishing up this week. College hoops is done, so kind of taking it easy for a week or two.
Well, the Colts and Indiana have something in common. Neither knows who the hell their quarterback is going to be.
Oh, this is true.
Here we go, guys.
All right.
Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste what Dr. Hops is brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Here on this Wednesday, we've made it to the halfway point, April 5, and we are joined by the great one, Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Robert, how are you today, sir?
I'm fabulous, man. It's not a golf day, man. It's because the skies are going to open up anytime now.
You know what? I slept with the door open, which was amazing, waiting for that sound that never happened until this morning when I woke up.
Right.
The thunderstorm, but I snuck out and played 9 holes yesterday.
Yeah, I played 18 yesterday. We were talking off the air. It's kind of a slow time in local sports. With college hoops done, the Pacers are finishing up this week. Colts don't get going again until April 10th. So it's a little slow. So it's time for Bob to play some golf. Bad golf.
Well, that's actually mine's been a little bit better, but it's just nice to get out. Yesterday was a pretty daggone great day.
Beautiful day.
80 degrees. It wasn't windy. It was just nice out. So just nice to get out into some spring. I wish it was as slow for us as it is for you. We've got college basketball to chase, as the transfer portal, of course, is still open and active and will remain that way. Indiana, of course, has 4 positions to fill. They're meeting with Caleb Love, the guard from North Carolina. They've got Jalen Deloche from VCU, I think. They've already landed the Sparks kid from Ball State.
Ball State,
but they've got a lot of work to do. I mean, 4 more spots that's a lot to get done.
Right. To me, it's a shame about. I mean, I totally understand that Bates and Geronimo felt like they could get a better opportunity elsewhere, but I really felt like if they had performed the way a lot of us thought they would, and the way they did in short spurts, I think they could have been difference makers for next year's IU team. So it's kind of a shame, but at the same time, kids should have the opportunity to chase their dreams wherever they reside. So yes, Mike Whitson's got a hell of a lot of work in front of him.
Peyton Sparks, but it's great for a kid like that who said he grew up an IU fan.
Right.
And now he gets an opportunity to play for IU that he would not have gotten because he had already had to make his college choice. He wasn't recruited by IU, but turned his play into something that caught their attention. Right. So things change now. So there are some great benefits from it as well. But more importantly, Indiana's got to get a team that can compete and not just in the Big Ten. And there is a difference between competing in the Big Ten and then competing in the NCAA tournament. They're two different beasts.
Well, guards, I mean, in the NCAA tournament, we've seen, even though Sonogo was a hell of a player for UConn, he's up front. I mean, guard play is paramount in the NCAA tournament. We saw it with Purdue. We saw them go 5 of 26 from 3 with their 2 freshman guards. Braden Smith had a bunch of turnovers, I think 6 or 7. So, yeah, when you get to that spot and you look at some of the teams that went far, I think FAU is almost all transfers, if I'm not mistaken. So, one of those teams, one of the teams that made the Final Four was almost all transfers. I'm not sure if it was FAU or not. Somebody smarter than me can straighten me out there, but that's the way you have to build a team in the modern college landscape. You've got to be successful in the portal.
I think this had been previously announced, but it's confirmed. Indiana going into play in Market Square, Texas, UConn, and Louisville in the Empire Classic next fall in basketball. And I've told people, if you have not been to Madison Square Garden, it's a bucket lister, man. It's just one of those places you need to go to. I've been fortunate I've been there once, but you're in a regal place, not because it looks regal, but just because if you walk around and see the posters of the things that have happened there, and I'm like,
yeah,
whoa. I didn't know that that's where Marilyn Monroe sang the Happy Birthday, Mr. President, to John F. Kennedy.
Is that right? I did not know that.
Yes. I was like, oh my God.
I grew up going there. I grew up in Long Island, and my dad would take us to Knicks games and Rangers games. And so I went to the Garden all the time. To me, it seemed like the most magical place on earth. At the same time, at that age, I thought Shea Stadium was the most magical place on earth. And Shea Stadium, as I discovered later in my life, was a complete dump. But when you're a little kid and you see that green field, the manicure,
absolutely,
and the hot dogs and everything, it just seems like the most beautiful place. Madison Square Garden is not a gorgeous place. It's just what it represents. It's the history and the atmosphere. I mean, Knicks fans will sell out the joint just to boo Isaiah Thomas. They don't care if the Knicks are good or bad. They're going to show up with Spike Lee, and they're going to let the Knicks know what they think of their play.
The history of Madison Square Garden is amazing too. If people, you should take the time to read it. There was a couple of iterations before that. It started in the 1800s, and it's named after the 4th president, James Madison, which I did not know.
I didn't know. It used to be the Felt Forum.
Before that it was?
Yeah, there's a portion of it called the Felt Forum.
Yes.
And it's a really interesting. It's just a cool place. It's not, like I say, it's not the most modern It's not, like one of those arenas that was built in the last 10 years with all the accompaniments, but it's just you got to go once. You got to go once.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that. Let's see. In addition to that, we've I mentioned early Indiana football and the Colts. Neither know who their quarterback is going to be next year.
Not a clue.
And that seems a little dangerous being this time where we are. Of course, I think Indiana fans are kind of used to not having a quarterback named this time of year. But now that's just been mainly gamesmanship, I think. Now I think it is real. They simply don't know because the guy that finished the season is hurt. Then you've got Trace Jackson Davis's brother, Taven Jackson, who is, I don't know, is he the most likely? Then they don't have a lot to go.
No, they don't. They don't. I don't know what they're going to do. But with the Colts, you mentioned the Colts, and
I mean they need Chad Powers.
Chad Powers would make all the difference. He's a change maker, that guy. No, I just feel like I think the Colts have a better idea now that they've had all the guys in. I think they're starting to put together their thoughts on who they like, and frankly, I think it's gonna come down to Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. I just do. I mean, you're gonna get the third or fourth best quarterback out there. I think that's the way they're gonna end up going. I don't see the Lamar Jackson thing happening, even though I think that it should. But who the hell cares what I think? I
was sure hoping, but is that because
they don't want to pay guaranteed money?
I was going to say Jim came out and said that he's not going to do a guaranteed contract.
Right.
And so
that's the end of story. Unless they change his mind somehow, some way. But one thing they need to do is move up to 3, because in the third spot right now, it's Arizona, and some quarterback needy team is going to move up, whether that's the Las Vegas Raiders or the Atlanta Falcons. Somebody is going to move up the way the Charlotte Panthers moved up, and that's going to leave the Colts with the 4th choice. So it is not beyond the realm of comprehension that they may look. I'm 99% sure they're going to grab a quarterback there, but it's not completely beyond the realm of comprehension. They may either trade back or go get the best player available and go get Hendon Hooker later. I don't think it's beyond the realm of comprehension.
Yeah, it's becoming a real game of chess for this going down. The Masters begins this week. I was talking earlier. The biggest chatter is about the LIV versus the PGA at the Masters.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
There's like 18 guys, and they want more than anything for one of those 18 to win this tournament.
Right.
They would just love for that. And TV, how big would it be for TV to have a LIV and a PGA guy going at it down through? I mean, that's what CBS wants.
Oh, absolutely. And that probably, played into the decision to let them play in the majors. Quite frankly, I'm not sure I understand why they're letting them play in the majors and not the others. I don't know what the thought is, besides maybe the fact that TV ratings will go through the roof. But I would bet you that none of those LIV guys do anything. I mean, they're used to playing 3 rounds with no cuts, kind of a casual atmosphere on the LIV tour. And who's tearing it up on the LIV tour? I mean, you're paying Mickelson hundreds of millions of dollars to shoot 75 and 72 and 73. I mean, who on that side is going to make a run at it? Cameron Smith. I don't know. I love playing golf, but I'm not an expert, at covering it. But if it does come down to a Sunday and you've got a PGA guy and a live guy, it's going to get real interesting.
Yeah. Does the PGA, they don't control all four. Well, definitely don't control the Open.
Right.
But do they control even the Masters on who's allowed to play in that one?
I think that's completely up to the Masters.
Yeah, as is the U.S. Open, because that's
how they're able to get around it.
Now, the only one, though, is the PGA. The PGA, isn't that? That's one of the
PGA,
majors that is completely under the. Now they're letting them play in that, which is that's the. Why?
Yeah, you wonder if they're trying to. I don't know why they're doing it. I have no idea. But it could be hell of a theater.
Absolutely. So what do you do now besides just play golf and work on that zero handicap?
I'm going to Pacers tonight and kind of doing a wrap up of their season, what they did well, where they need to go. That'll appear probably Thursday afternoon. And actually WNBA is kind of interesting. I mean, the Fever have the first pick in the draft. It's going to be Aaliyah Boston. So that's on Monday, and the Colts start up again on Monday. I believe it's the 10th. So things will start getting rolling here, and then of course we move into the month of May, which is always exciting. And I think I'll be writing a lot more about the race this year than I have in the past. I hope.
Speaking of Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina, or
South Carolina.
South Carolina. That's going to be a great get. Do they have another pick that's high enough where they could potentially get Grace Berger? Because I know that there was talk about that, but I don't know if they have another.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You're not talking to an expert in that area. I just know they got number one. Is Grace Berger considered a first-round draft pick? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I haven't looked at mocks. I haven't either, not in the WNBA, and I don't know how many picks there actually are. 12, or I don't know how many teams there are.
It's kind of a shame to me that Caitlin Clark, I mean, she wouldn't be the first pick probably because they like Boston size, but boy, wouldn't it be a great kick in the butt for the WNBA if Caitlin Clark could make the jump from college to the pros right now? But she's got to be there at least one more year, and she said she might be there for 2 more years. So it's great for the college game. But
that's because she's making more money.
Probably making more money, and she doesn't want to have to go overseas to make cash. So, it was interesting the other night with Clark and with Angel
Reese.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like it from either young lady.
Well, I don't either, but I don't have a problem with what Reese did because, and I had this discussion yesterday, Caitlin Clark is getting nothing but what she's dished out all season long. I've seen her do that stuff all year long.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen her in press conferences not give other teams credit. And I'm like, I don't have a problem with what Reese did. If I was kicking her butt after what she did, I would have done the same thing. Maybe that makes me bad. I don't know. But I'm going to give it right back to her. I'm going to say right there, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I thought she was a little overboard, She
probably was.
I mean, she was just sort of chasing her around the court, doing the John Cena thing. I'm an old fart. I still think there's room for sportsmanship or sportswomanship in these games. And again, I'm an old guy. I have a different approach to this. I grew up with act like you've been there before, stuff like that. But it doesn't bother me. I thought it was not out of character, but I just thought it was unnecessary by both of them.
Oh, without question. It gets a little stupid. Indiana baseball and softball have had I know this is not something you covered, but an incredible starts to their years. I don't know if the softball team has lost yet. Last I knew that they had won 16 straight or 19 straight maybe, and the men's baseball team had won 16 or 17 straight home games. Pretty good start to the season.
I would say so. And that's everything I have to add on that subject.
Exactly. Because show that nice sweatshirt you're wearing there.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Look at that.
Indiana hockey, baby.
Look at that. Bob's a man of bad blood. What can the folks look for next from you?
Well, like I said, I'm going to go to the Pacers.
You tonight. In a hammock?
Huh?
You in a hammock?
In a hammock?
Yeah. Just look forward to you just floating in a hammock.
Oh, no. I still got to work. It's just not as frequent right now, but it'll get frequent again. But check out Thursday afternoon, The Athletic. I'll have something on the Pacers, what they've accomplished this year. I think this is the least painful rebuilding year ever. You know what I mean? I mean, they played reasonably good basketball most of the season.
They did.
And their season was only derailed by the fact that Halliburton got hurt back in January and missed like 10, 12 games, and they lost them all. But they've been fine. And I'll tell you what, you add a Jarace Walker or one of those guys in the draft, or hopefully one of the top 4 guys, which would be awesome. They could get pretty damn good, pretty damn fast.
Yeah, and the fans are ready for it because they supported them this year, knowing that they're going to be probably pretty good next year as well. So we'll look forward to that. Just like we'll look forward to talking to you again next week, my brother.
Yes, sir.
You have a great one. Enjoy the game tomorrow because there will be no golfing for you today.
There will be no golfing for me today. No doubt about it.
The great Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Make sure you follow him. Be a subscriber. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man.
We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's
okay.
Wow, I did not know that. Okay. Well, I probably didn't forgot. I thought that there was just one that they did run, but I guess there are none, which makes it perfect. But it also shows, the PGA holds sway over the folks at the Masters and all those places, and if they really didn't want them to play, they'd say, look, man, this is going to hurt our league or whatever. And they wouldn't be playing. Now, the guys don't want them on the regular tour because they've already made money. They're like, screw that. I don't want them to get a chance of taking any more money. Did I tell you about Mattress Mac? Did I talk about that on the air?
I saw you tweet about it, but you didn't talk about it on the air.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. Oh, remind me to bring that up with Dusty Friday.
Yeah, there you go. That'll be interesting to hear from him.
Colin said that he can do he's got his daughter, he can do a full segment tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, let me see. I'll just text you what the times he could do it, then I'll give you the availability.
Cool. So are we just on our own until Rick?
Till Kyle. We'll have
Kyle is coming on?
I mean, I didn't tell him not to.
Well, it's probably too late now. He's probably already prepared. So,
plus they talked about or they released the Indiana High School All Stars. So you can all talk about that.
Oh, da-da. More tornadoes possible in central Indiana with April 5th storms. Just see, I look down and I see today's April 5th.
Oh, shoot. Almost said an expletive. I guess I could do.
You almost said shit.
I did. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right, 20 seconds.
Once a week. That's right, it's the fastest, simplest, and easiest way to avoid decision fatigue. You pick your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, April 5. Expecting a little stormy day out there for us. Hope it's all sunshine where you are. I'm looking at the Indy Star right now, and a piece by Greg Doyle that says Mike Whitson's great for Indiana basketball, but Dusty May has next, right? Question mark. Which is bold to put out. But while I think that he is one of two direct candidates, you would think when that time comes, and just as Greg Doyle says here, nobody's pushing Mike Woodson out. No one's suggesting that. Neither am I. But we're just talking about when that day comes, and it will come. He's in his mid to upper 60s. Dusty May, before this year, would not even been a consideration for this job, I don't think. I'm going to say he wouldn't be a consideration, but not like now. Now he's gone from little consideration to equal to anybody else. And the only anybody else that I can think of at the moment would be Michael Lewis, who is up the road, getting experience as a head coach. Also had a good year. Didn't have the year that Dusty May had, but that was Michael's first season at Ball State. But Indiana will definitely have options for when that time comes next. And I mean options different from the last time. They didn't have this when they were replacing Archie Miller. It was just kind of different. Now they'll have a huge decision to make. And man, that's going to be tough. I think it's going to depend on what Michael does at Ball State over the next couple of years. But you have to love what you saw from Dusty May. I was talking about it yesterday. I love his demeanor on the sideline during a game. He is the coolest customer on the court. He's just always looks calm. I'm looking at a picture from a game right now, and that's exactly what he's just standing there with his hands behind his back. And that's how I think of him every time I see him on the sideline. Watching, thinking, planning. It's going to be that's going to be something, man. That will also bring a split to some IU fans. I wonder what the players would think about that. Michael Lewis being a former player. But one advantage that Dusty May does have, maybe, is Indiana's athletics director, Scott Dolson, was also a Bob Knight basketball manager. So it's curious, just a curious thing to talk about, even though that's not happening today or tomorrow. That's just something to talk about. Robert says, what was he talking about? I missed that. Let's see. Daffy, I think you must be talking about Caitlin Clark, since she's probably making $80K just to stay in school. If you're talking about Caitlin Clark, I got news for you. She's making way north of $80K. Way north. She's making more than she would make in the WNBA right now. She will make more next season than she would in the WNBA. And if she could stay another season after that, she would make more. Not only that, she would probably obliterate a lot of records. And not only that, how good could Iowa be over the next couple of years? Recruiting should be easy. Transfer portal adds to that. They could build a monster. But teams that have a team that is with this uber shining star generally don't win it all. They win a lot of games, but they don't win when it counts. A recent example for Indiana, go back and look at the Tyra Buss era. Tyra was a great scorer, a great man. She could just feel. But when one person is doing all of that and the other team, the rest of the team is not getting involved, that's not a good recipe. That's kind of what Iowa was like. And I just don't think that that's ever a winning formula. It took them a long way. It took them close. It definitely got them close. But teams generally win, not individuals. We'll see. It'll be interesting. IU softball has now won 22 in a row. Thank you for that, Kent. That's just staggering. 22 games in a row. Shonda has done an incredible job there. When she came here, this softball program was, or the Indiana softball program was like any other, just there. They're ranked now. They've won 22 straight games. That is nuts. Robert says this may get me in trouble, but honestly, is there that much interest in, or do that many people really care about or follow the WNBA? Not really. I mean, when you say that many people, some do. Obviously, there are fans of everything, so the fans of that are the fans of it. But as far as comparisons, no, it's not nearly as. And it's something we probably would not be talking about at all if it hadn't been for Caitlin Clark and maybe Grace Berger right now. Other than that, no, we would not be talking about it. Pete says the number one, the NCAA has cracked down on men's game and taunting leading to technicals. That's right. Why? You can't breathe in the direction of another player in the men's game. Great point to bring up. But Caitlin Clark has done this all season long, and instead of it being a technical, it's been encouraged. It's been encouraged because it has not been stopped. You haven't even had an official go up to her and said, hey, don't do that. That's a technical or whatever. No. So that is encouraging that behavior. That behavior was encouraged in the national championship game. It was allowed. Think about that happening in a men's game. Seriously. Jordan Geronimo got a technical for passing the ball to an official. But in the women's game, it's all rules off, right? Yeah, that's just ridiculous. But I guess, that's what helps get interest. I guess that's why they're doing it. Five Less said kudos for Caitlin Clark to not accepting the victim role. The media is trying to, well, I agree, but there's not a lot she can say. She just got a fistful of humble pie is what she got. And so anything else she would say would not come over well, I don't think. Yeah, I don't understand why there's anything being made of it. She got humbled, period. Stop. End of story, period. Done. So there's that. Let's see, where are we? Mattress Mac. And Dusty May will be on with us Friday. Don't forget. Looking forward to talking to Dusty, of course, FAU's coach, fresh off of the Final Four. Daggone, so close to the playing for a national title. But Mattress Mac, do you remember Mattress Mac? He's the guy in Houston that would put these $1 million bets on the Astros. He had them in the tournament, I believe, as well. A Houston supporter, University of Houston supporter. But he allegedly paid for the travel and accommodations for all of the family members, parents, for the FAU team. And so and you didn't see that anywhere. Somebody actually found that out. So we'll talk to Dusty about that, but that was a really nice gesture for him.
I always love hearing when Mattress Mac is in the news because people,
it's always good.
Because people who don't know who Mattress Mac is, like I remember the first time that I heard of him. When your name is Mattress Mac, you only work in one of two industries. You either sell mattresses or
you spend a lot of time on one.
Exactly. He's well traveled.
Yeah. You know, he's a funny dude, man. But golly, can you imagine having that kind of money?
I mean,
man, he's making $1 million bets. Oh, he's got money stuffed in mattresses all over the place, I guess.
We need to get Mattress Mac to invest in Indiana Sports Beat.
Just invest in me, adopt me.
Hey, if he's in on Dusty May, just have Dusty May put in a good word for us, and maybe we can get a little investment from Mattress Mac.
Mike says he's under a tornado watch until 5.
Maybe the tornado will suck up my HVAC unit because it is April 5th and it is 77 degrees in my house.
Do you not have the air turned on?
No, it's on. It sucks. I don't know. For those of you who followed the show for a long time, at the end of the summer last year, I was excited about getting to turn my air off because I knew I wasn't going to have to fool with it until this time of year now. But now it's time to bring in my HVAC guy and get this crap taken care of. It's going to, replacing an HVAC costs a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah. For those of you our listeners up in the northern part of the state, Mike says he's up in, I just saw it, daggone, Peru. So, yeah, probably going to be some wonky weather today, especially, north of south central Indiana. It just becomes flat. Above Indianapolis is like Kansas or any place else, but it's that time of year, man. So hope everyone stays safe today. Kevin went to a game last night at Slugger Field down in Louisville. Man, we got things
That's
going
right.
on.
Opening day at the Bat Stadium last night.
Speaking of opening day, where are we with Major League Baseball? Are the Reds still undefeated? Someone asked me last night, hey, are the Reds still undefeated? I'm like, what are they? Is that 2-0?
I was right next to Great American Ballpark last night. There was a Reds game going on right next to where I was at the Heritage Bank Center for Shinedown.
Okay, so why does that not show their record? They've already played 2 games, haven't they?
Let's see if I can figure it out for you.
Yeah, they're 5. They're 3-2.
Oh,
well,
there you go.
Yesterday they got drilled by the Cubs.
It was crazy. So whenever I pulled into Cincinnati, there was a ton of Cubs fans. And I guess that shouldn't be a surprise. But I mean, it is Cincinnati. I guess you would expect more Reds fans to be there. But
man, the Cubs just smoked the Reds 12-5 yesterday. Pounded. Gee whiz. There was 25 hits in that game. 25 hits. The Reds had 9 hits and scored only 5 runs. But the Cubs pounded out 16 hits and 12 runs.
Break.
We've got to take a break. We'll come back. Rick Bozich should join us later. We'll catch back up on some baseball, see how the start of that is, and make sure that nothing else has changed in the world of the portal as it ever is changing world. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the
Hey, what was the main topics of conversation with you and Bob? I feel like y'all were all over the place. I couldn't find a way to pinpoint it.
IU Colts quarterback, and
That's the one thing I remember. I was like, what else? Y'all talked about golf too, right?
Masters and LIV versus PGA.
That's right. That's what you all started with, wasn't it?
But you just,
it's tough to headline when you're all over the place. That's why I'm trying.
No, I know, but
all
the important thing is to always put in Indiana basketball.
I know, but I mean that was honestly hardly any of the conversation today.
I know, but even just if it's a comma, it.
Oh, well, yeah, I can honestly. I'll just probably whenever I'll headline it one thing and I'll include everything in the description if I can. I'll figure out what to call it.
Yeah, boys.
John, this guy says call it Rambling with Bob.
Rambling Bob. That sounds like a band or a name of a singer or a song. Rambling Bob.
It does. I like it.
Oh, I gotta get to the. Yeah.
I haven't heard back from Kyle, but sometimes he doesn't text me. He just shows up. So we'll see.
All right. In the National League. The Reds are holding tight in second place, baby. 1 game out of first. Someone pull a Lee Corso. Stop and take a picture.
Is anybody still unbeaten in MLB? I mean, I know it's only been a week or whatever, but
no. Oh, let me go to the American League. Why are you just showing me? Oh, yes. The Tampa Bay Rays are the only undefeated team left in Major League Baseball at 5-0.
keep it up, Tampa Bay. What's the longest? I mean, I'm sure it's not super long. There has to be. What's the record? Longest unbeaten to start the season for Major
That's a
League
great
Baseball.
question.
Let's see if I can find that. Let's see. Might be
10 games.
The Braves.
I got 10.
Oh, maybe. Here's Mr. Neddenriep.
The 1955 Brooklyn Dodgers.
Got
have
10
the
seconds. Here we go.
Gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast, Market, and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Probably going to be a soggy day out there. Good day for you to be listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Kyle, how are you, sir?
Hey, good, Jim. How are you?
Good. Have you gotten to take a breath yet?
Not really. A lot of postseason stuff, and you know, it seems like it just never quite ends. But yeah, getting a lot of our postseason stuff out now with Indiana All Stars yesterday, and I got our super team coming this week for our local players, and you know, some freshmen that had good seasons. Sophomores ran today, so a lot of stuff. Seems like every day.
Yeah, Xavier Booker, of course, one of those that expected to make it on the team, made that. Marcus Burton, Penn, Miles Colvin, Zane Dowdy, Joey Hart, Logan Imes, the usual suspects. Anybody that made it that surprised you, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but just, hey, oh, wow, he snuck in or.
Yeah. Luke Almodovar from Noblesville, I think was probably one that I thought should have a chance to get in. And based on, gosh, he shot 50% from three. He was, they won a sectional title, arguably the toughest sectional in the state. And, just had a really good year and went out and had a really good top 60 as well. And he was one I didn't think was going to get in just because I didn't think, they might have known him, as that type of player. But I think once you saw him in the top 60 and then, based on what he did during the season, I don't think it was a huge surprise. But I was a little surprised, so I'm glad he got in. I think he had that type of season. Other ones, I was Mason Jones from Valpo, I thought would get in and did, although I thought he might, with their season, they didn't have a great season win-loss record. I think they're 13-14, but he had two really good seasons team-wise as a sophomore and junior. They just didn't have a lot around him this year necessarily. So he was one I think maybe, people thought he would probably get in. AJ Lux was one, I think, from Crown Point that I think they probably felt like they needed another shooter on this team, and he definitely fills that bill. He's headed to Bellarmine. He was definitely on the radar, but one that I wasn't sure he was going to get in. And they didn't have a real deep tournament run by any means, so wasn't sure about him. And then Ian Roush was probably the one from Northwood that might have surprised a lot of people because Cade Brenner on that Northwood team was the leading scorer, and he had, 23 points, I think, in the first half of that 3A state championship game. Again, this was probably more of a position, and I'm not saying Ian didn't deserve it by any means, but, probably a position situation as well. You're trying to beat Kentucky. It's not always the top 13 players necessarily. It's trying to put a team together of deserving players and then also trying to put a roster together that's going to fit. And I think at 6'6", the way he defends, and then, he was very much improved as a senior, and then they won state. And, I think he was probably somewhat of a surprise. And then, Cade Brenner, probably one of the top, if you put a list of snubs or guys you thought might have had a good chance to make it, his teammate was probably right at the top of that list. So sort of an odd situation there, but Ian was probably one that maybe a lot of people didn't have on their list.
Another thing, this is a year that, and we kind of have known this, talked about it, the class is down a little bit as far as having elite talent. Not that these guys aren't very good in their own right. They are, but when you look down through where most of these guys are going, you don't see a ton of big time commitments. I know Imes had actually committed to Penn State, but there was a coaching change there, and he has reopened that for the moment. But we don't see the Indianas and tons of Indianas and the Purdue's. There's just a little bit this year.
Yeah, I mean, you've got it's a pretty deep class. I think it's a pretty good class. You got Booker's Michigan State, Marcus Burton going to Notre Dame. Colvin Purdue. Zane Dowdy's probably going to be a higher mid-major, I would think, if not a higher mid-major. Joey Hart, Central Florida. Imes is probably going to, if you were guessing, would probably end up at Notre Dame with Micah Shrewsbury. Jones, Ball State, Lux, Bellarmine is D1. Orm is Belmont, which is, I think, a great fit for him. J.Q. Roberts going to Vanderbilt. Sheridan Sharp going to Nicholls State, which is D1, smaller D1, but I think he's it's a deep class. There's other guys who didn't make it who are also either Division I players. So yeah, you might not have. I mean, you do have a top player in Booker or a top prospect,
right.
And I think Burton is sensational as well. So I And I think Colvin, I think he's an NBA type of an athlete. So I think it's a pretty good class, to be honest.
And it's the one thing I learned from this year is there's no telling what these guys are going to be like 2-3 years from now. They could take leaps that are unbelievable. But you look at next year's class, and that's even much. I don't know if it's deeper, but next year's class is stronger at the top. I don't know if it's nearly as deep, though, as you pointed out. This is a very deep class, just not a ton of elite talent at the top. But next year it could be completely reversed with that. As in Indiana, even if it's down in one way or the other, that's still above most other places. And this is a situation where virtually every Indiana All-Star roster, they're generally all 80% probably going to play at a Division I school every year.
Yeah, I mean, when you put, I remember last year, when the senior class was juniors, and you put the top 5 players on the court against the seniors, they were, they were really good. They were beating the seniors. I mean, they were, which was, Booker, Colvin, Burton, Imes, and Dowdy. And they, I think that's the 5 it was, but those 5 were really not having a problem, matching up and even beating the senior team, when they went head to head. So, so you take that group and then Joey Hart. And so, it's a really good class, I think, on the whole. Next year, I think, you've got, obviously you got Flory, you got Catchings, you got KJ Wyndham, who's a really good player. You got Jack Benter. But it's not as deep, in my opinion, as this current class. And now there's guys who had good seasons who, I think will be players to watch, like Sabian Kane. I think people may not know who he is outside of Indianapolis or even at the 4A level, but, had a really good year at university and getting some Division I. Arizona State had offered him. Cameron Caskey's a phenomenal athlete at Pike who had to put together a really good year. So, I mean, there's guys in that 2024 class who I think are still on the come up but overall in the whole, I'm just, that class has always been a little bit shaky or not as deep, I would say. It's all, like you said, it's all kind of, it's all kind of, you're judging its class based on other classes in the state, which are obviously always really strong. But, and then I look at that 2025 class, which, is looking at some of the top sophomores in our area alone this year. It's like, man, that is a really deep class as well on the whole. So, it kind of goes, it's cyclical a little bit, but even the worst or, the least depth classes are still pretty good, and you still find really good players, obviously. So, but yeah, it's 2024 class, obviously, when you got a guy like Flory, you got a guy like Benter or, players like that, obviously props up your class quite a bit, or Catchings, those 3, I think, are really, top prospect type players.
And I know that your focus is on the high school beat, but because of that, you've covered so many of these guys with the transfer portal being the way it is. Man, these guys at a young age not only quickly move, but they can get to a school. And a perfect example is Peyton Sparks, a kid that ended up going to Ball State, but grew up an IU fan. And now his talent has risen up to where he can actually play at IU and will be playing at IU. So it's cool to see. While that hurts Ball State, IU is going to benefit from that, but Peyton Sparks benefits from that. So it's good to see that in an Indiana kid getting to live that dream out. But there's so many of these guys that just haven't developed yet, Kyle. But some of them can develop quickly once they get to college, and it just, some things change for them, and whatever it is, whether it's coaching or whatever, that elevates their play quickly. And we can see some of these guys that, although they may not be going to major Division I schools, at some of the bigger Indiana schools in the near future.
Well, yeah, I mean, Zane Dowdy could be that type of player, I think, or there's any number of guys who, especially the big guys, because they're always sort of late to develop anyway, just by the nature of sort of growing and gaining your kind of your equilibrium about you as you get older and putting that all together as an athlete. It is. I mean, I was talking to a mid-major assistant last night who it's sort of like a minor league type system. Unfortunately, it's really hard. And
I was just getting ready to ask you, is it just basically becoming a feeder system of sorts?
Well, it's just, those mid majors, they just battle. He told me, he's like, hey, we just try to put the best team we can together each year. And sometimes you can, sometimes it's harder. It's just kind of, it's almost a 1 year situation. Not for every kid, obviously, but a lot of them, and then if they play really well, you're trying to fend off the high majors, and it's not, I don't think it's hard feelings or you try to keep the good relationships with kids too, because, hey, they may come back to you at some point. If you recruited them and they go somewhere else, don't have a great experience, you want to keep those relationships open. You don't want to say, well, screw you. I don't, you were too good for us. You want to keep the door open for that possibility. So that's a little bit different way to look at it too. But yeah, I mean, it's especially for those mid majors, it's hard, man. The Missouri Valleys, the Macs, the places like that where you're kind of caught in between a little bit. So, but yeah, it's just a different world. It's a different, and they don't recruit high school kids like they used to. They still do. They still recruit them, but you're playing the transfer portal primarily. And that's the players in the portal have more of a track record, so you kind of know what they have to offer. So yeah, I mean, it was an interesting conversation, with Coach I've known for a long time, but it's just interesting to kind of hear behind the scenes what's going on, and I know they may think a kid's coming back and then all of a sudden they're not, and somebody tells them, kind of behind the scenes, like, hey, we can get you here. What do you think? And all of a sudden, your situation changes with the kid. So it's I don't know. It's a different world right now.
Yeah. When it comes to an NIL, I mean, there's no way that these MAC school or any other mid-major can compete with Indiana's and those kind of schools in that regard.
Right.
Yeah. Without question. I mean, they're just trying to, I look what Michael's doing at Ball State. He's trying to get people into the games. They're doing things to try to get people into the games to get that program going. So I'm sure they have some NIL, but it's nothing. It's like pocket change compared to schools that have worked at it. And also these schools have an advantage because collectives and schools can work directly with players on NIL if they are a returning player, which that is something that would help a mid-major if they had something to offer. But it's going to be hard to compare apples and oranges there. Yeah,
and in fairness, a lot of the mid-major coaches they're trying to get to that level too eventually. So it's everybody's situation changes, and if you can keep a core together, and they can offer something to their top players, maybe just obviously not what the high majors can, but they're trying, if you can put something together, keep a little bit of continuity and add pieces. We've seen, like the Florida Atlantic or, some of these schools that have been able to do that and really thrive. And sometimes you're better off, having those kids who are flying a little bit below the radar than constantly turning over your situation yearly. But it's just the unknown. The unknown of it is just hard. And like I said, you may think a kid's coming back one day, and then the next day he's talked to somebody else and he's not coming back. So that, I think that'd be the hardest thing. I think for me, it's just, there's no real loyalty. I'm not making a blanket statement by that. And I don't blame, it's like, put yourself in that position. Why would you turn down that opportunity if you have that offer. So, but it's more of a year-to-year thing than it's ever been.
What's up next for you, Kyle? More Indiana All-Star stuff, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm putting together our super team right now. I put together a list of guys who, the guys I thought had a good chance to make the All-Star team and didn't. That's out there now. And then, this morning, some of the top sophomores in our immediate area here in Central Indiana. And then, later today we'll have tomorrow we'll have our super team for Central Indiana, which is always hard to slot people and give them the recognition they probably deserve. We have some really good players who will only be high honorable mention, with just kind of the nature of it every year. But then, so doing that, and then trying to make the transition here to and we'll have Mr. Basketball finalists. I think will be out on Friday. We're going to announce that 2 weeks from today. Mr. Basketball will be at our sports awards banquet. So I know some people have asked about that, and that'll be 2 weeks from today. It'll be the Mr. Basketball announcement.
Well, we'll look forward to that in 2 weeks, and the finalists coming up this Friday.
Absolutely.
Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star, can't thank you enough.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Have a great day. We'll be back with more. Rick Bozich joins us up here on Indiana Sports Beat next.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. How's everybody?
I think we're all doing great.
Is he settled in today? He's home?
He's here. I think he went to grab coffee or something.
Oh, okay. Yelling at us?
Yeah, I think he heard us ask where you were or whatever, and then he said he's doing well. It's April, and I'm having to get a new HVAC. I'm HVAC guys coming on after the show's done today.
Oh, wow.
That can't be fun in terms of paying for it, right?
You got to get a new one?
Yeah, so I have had issues for the past year and a half, and it's just finally crapped out. This is the first couple days I've run it, really needed to run it, and it's it's 77 degrees in here. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be running that poorly.
Yeah, I had to buy a new one in 2019, so I feel your pain. Now they always tell you the stuff that you can't keep putting Freon in because the Freon they used to use is illegal or something.
Do what?
The last time I had one, they wanted to fix it, but when they said something about the Freon they used to use is going to be banned. This was like 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was really expensive. So in the end, you're probably better off to buy a new system. And
that's what they told me. They gave me a little Freon boost this past summer because they figured they could just help me get through the last month or whatever it was. And they just kind of said, hey, by the time spring rolls around, you're probably going to need a new HVAC. And that's definitely the case. So
who are you going with?
It's a family friend. So they helped me out a little bit.
That's good. Yeah. I don't know. It's always something, man. Around here, it's like landscaping issues, or we had a bunch of landscaping done 3 years ago, and then we had that day in December when it went from 70 to 17, in 5 hours.
Yeah.
And a bunch of
these
landscaping.
We had a weird winter this year. I mean, we had the coldest Christmas in however many years, and then we didn't have hardly anything the rest of winter around here, I feel like.
Right.
Hello, Richard.
What's new?
Nothing yet. That could change by the end of the day, of course.
I saw that.
Because Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this stormy April 5th. Jim Coyle with you, joined now by the great one, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Rick, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Trying to figure out what to write about now that we don't have basketball anymore and it's still 4.5 weeks to go into the Derby.
Yeah, we were talking about all kinds of things today, but looking at your White Sox off to a 2-3 start, they're kind of middling.
The first 4 games were pretty good. They played the defending world champs at Houston and split the series. Then they got blown out in the home opener. So we'll see what they do today.
Whenever the Sox are on around it, there's a lot of Sox fans in the Bloomington area because of the Chicago over.
So that's good because there's none of them in Louisville.
They're definitely, they're all over. And plus, we're on 12:30 a.m. 104.7 FM up in Hammond, which gets us into Chicago. So there's some Sox fans that can hear us. So those South Siders especially.
You got an affiliate in Hammond, Indiana? Wow.
Yes. Yep. We're up there, man. That's right. Rick is from Maryville, so he's your hometowners can hear now. So
yeah, I'll have to let
it's a great thing
know.
for that. Absolutely. I worked the first game. I probably said this before, but I when I was working for CBS as a putz, I remember getting to work the first games at the new Comiskey Park as they were tearing the old one down. I think it was a series with Detroit and Cecil Fielder.
Yep. They were just talking about that yesterday. I think they lost like 16-1 or something like that.
I don't remember. I just was like, wow, and grabbed a couple balls off the field. So I need to get Cecil's autograph. It's just cool place to be. It was all brand spanking new. They had the dinner. We got to eat lunch over in right field of the windows overlooking, which was pretty cool. But yeah, it was a great stadium. Then that's been a minute. That thing's old now.
1991, I believe the year it was opened. Yeah, so it's 32 years old.
Exactly. The Reds, they're 3-2. We'll see how they. That may be the best. I said that they should pull a Lee Corso, stop it, take a picture, and that's probably as good as it's going to get for the Reds. But we'll see. Lots going on, and even though college basketball is over, the portal, of course, for everybody because if this season taught me anything is that, man, I won't know who's going to be what until the season is in play next year. Predicting teams is getting more and more difficult because not only do they change so much in between seasons, but they change during the season. Miami is a team that played well, this year, but I don't know how many people expected them to be, go as far as they did. But just FAU is another great example. San Diego State. It's just predicting these teams is getting more and more difficult.
Yeah, and even all the focus on the portal and people immediately go to rankings in the portal and this guy and that guy. I mean, it doesn't mean it'll continue to be this way, but a lot of the portal guys who were big contributors on teams that got to the Final Four, if it would have been a year ago and you would have said Indiana's looking at Damian Trammell of Seattle to play guard, Indiana fans would have, what's wrong? What, can't they recruit the big names and what's going on here? And, and it's really hard to project who's good and who isn't good and how they fit into what you're trying to do and how motivated they are and all those different things. I mean, none of those San Diego State guys, I don't think they had a single top 100 recruit on their team. Not one. And I know that Florida Atlantic didn't. Miami might have had a couple, Wong and maybe one other guy. And obviously UConn did, and they won. And they should have won. They were the more talented team. What I don't understand about UConn is how they lost 8 games,
Eight.
seven in conference play. I mean, they finished 4th in their league.
Now they did play in a kind of the Big East.
Yeah.
Was you had Creighton and Xavier and who am I
Marquette.
missing? Marquette, of
Providence
course.
wasn't bad.
So yeah, but that's what Charles Barkley said. I want to know who the hell beat them 8 times. But but they were playing so well at the end of the year too, though. In New York, I saw them play, and then it's like, ooh, wow, UConn was just looking good. They were looking tournament ready. They were peaking, playing together, and well coached. Hurley had them focused, man, and they were playing together, playing to win. That's the greatest importance of getting guys that, like you said, to meet the fit, but are playing to win every time and knowing how to play to win every game, not taking games off.
Well, I mean, they had what you need to be a really good team these days, and you saw it. Like you were there in Albany, as you said, and so was I. They could play fast. They could play slower. They could make threes, but they also had an inside game. They had depth. They had athleticism. They had height. I mean, they had I'm not saying it was a perfect team. Obviously, it wasn't. They lost 8 games. But they had all the pieces that you want in a really versatile team. And, we were there the first night they played Rick Pitino and Iona. And I remember Iona made their first 4 shots. And I was thinking, this could be one of those games Pitino worked some of his magic. But you know what? Connecticut made like 5 of their first 6 shots and got the message. So I was like, you're not beating us. And what I was struck by was how fast they got the ball down court and scored. I mean, they looked like a team that was playing a different kind of basketball than everybody else. Because if you turned it over or you took a bad shot, they turned it into a basket immediately, and that's what good teams do. And they kept it up in the whole tournament. And the way they beat Gonzaga was another telltale sign to me that this team is different than everybody else.
Yeah, beat the snot out of them. Ed pointing out Connecticut wasn't even ranked at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
that just shows you. I mean, especially now again with the change, Indiana is going to be a completely different team next year. You've got
Indiana's
7 new faces.
They're not going to show up in any of these 2 early top 25s. They're not, because people know that Jackson.
There's no way.
And Hood Schifino and Race and Miller Kopp are gone, and among with Bates and Geronimo and Duncombe. So we don't even know what the team's going to be. I mean, I would be surprised. There'll be a minimum of 2 and maybe as many as 3, could be 4 guys out of the portal starting for IU next year. Right?
Oh, I sent out a tweet 2 weeks ago that said a minimum of 3, possibly 4 starters will be new on this team next year.
Yeah.
Galloway will probably start because Mike has shown he likes to go with his experience, expecting Xavier to be there. But that's not a given. If let's say they actually landed Caleb Love, is he going to come off the bench? I don't know about that, but him and X are very similar players too. So I don't know. That's not for me.
Galloway. Galloway's a fine player. He has some great games, but until Galloway shows that he can consistently be an offensive player and make shots, you're not going to win at a high level on the national scene with guys like that. You have to have guys in the perimeter who can make shots. You have to have them.
Yeah, he's a 2 guard that's a facilitator, and that's not what a 2 guard's position is.
Yeah.
You already have a point guard.
I mean, he's going to have to improve his game. I mean, it's the exception rather than the rule, but Victor Oladipo improved his game. Will Sheehy improved his game a little bit. It's up to Trey Galloway. I mean, I think he can be a really good player because he can defend, he can handle the ball, he's an energy guy, he does a lot of good things. But that's really a pretty important void in his game that he's going to have to fill to be. You can be a starter at Indiana, you can be a guy who's on a team that wins, but to really be an impact player, if you can't shoot the ball, you're not going to be an impact player.
Which makes it all the more
just head scratching on how Trace Jackson Davis did not do that over the last 4, 3, 2, 1 years. None of them. It's like, dude, you cannot. I just don't see him really successfully being able to play at the NBA without having some kind of shot. There's just no way. There's too many guys that can just run him out of the paint.
Well, compare him to Sonogo, and they're not exactly the same player, but Sonogo is a 6'8" post player who's a little bit more muscular, but he was comfortable going out on the perimeter and shooting threes, and he made some. And you have that's the thing. I agree with you. I never did understand with Jackson Davis. He improved as a free throw shooter, and when he was at the line, it wasn't like he was a 50% guy. I mean, he was around high 60s to low 70s, somewhere in that range. I mean, he's a better shooter in my mind than Race Thompson, and Race Thompson never had a hesitation about taking threes, but Trace just would never do it. It was puzzling.
He would hardly take a 12-footer. I mean, it was but that's another story. Peyton Sparks, now I don't know. Of course, I don't know much about him. I know he's a ferocious rebounder. I don't know about him offensively, if he has a 10-foot jump shot, if he has any of that. But I don't know also if Indiana's looking more for just having the 4 guys around him or someone like that can score the ball, shoot the ball. Trey Galloway, if he's going to be in there, has to be one of those guys that is scoring. He shot 50% from 3-point this year, but he didn't put up the numbers, the attempts that he should have, has to from that position, as you pointed out. So that's why, I think there could be 3 or 4 new starters next year to go along with Xavier. Peyton Sparks, I don't know if he's going to be one of those or not. Malik, I don't know if he's ready for a starting role. I don't know if he hit a wall because he was pretty decent player, but still he has to get past the fouling, the picking up those quick fouls, and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see the change he makes.
You had Tom Crean on earlier in the week, and I default back. There was ups and downs with Tom Crean. I mean, it was time for Indiana to make a change for a lot of reasons. But one thing you can consistently say about Tom Crean on offense, he had dudes that could make those shots, whether it was Zeisloff, Blackman, Robert Johnson, Yogi Ferrell, Victor Oladipo, Verdell Jones, Matt Roth. I mean, he had a lot of dudes that could make threes. And Troy Williams. Christian Watford. Troy Williams became a decent 3-point shooter. Maurice Creek, before he got hurt, was a 3-point shooter. And we can name a bunch. Jordy Hulls, I forgot about him. I mean, they had Will Sheehy at times could make them. I mean, they had guys who would take and could make 3-point shots. Offensively, they were much more difficult to guard in those days. And I think that the most concerning thing about IU to me this last season was shooting 3-point shots was not, I wouldn't say it was come close to being a priority. It was almost like it was
a negative.
What were they, like 350 and 3-point shot attempted? I mean, I
think the last I saw, they were like in the top 16 of percentage made, and the lowest 16 of the shots attempted, something like that.
Yeah, and I don't think in March you're going to win that way. That's still playing basketball from a different generation, and it's not played that way anymore.
Well, Penn State showed it to them. I mean, Penn State was beating them 3-2. They lost games. Northwestern beat them 3-2, basically. I mean, Iowa crushed them 3-2.
Indiana's point distribution, they got less than 23% of their points on 3-pointers. That ranked 345th out of 363 teams in the nation. Their 3-point shooting percentage was almost 37%, which was top 40. So you got to get a little bit more in the middle. Your percentage might go down a little bit, but you got to be more comfortable. And I know they had a great post player, one of the best in the nation, in Trace Jackson Davis, but you got to embrace a little bit more of the modern style of basketball and have more guys who are confident and feel empowered to take threes. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And you know that Mike Woodson is not dissuading anybody because he was always saying, "Oh, I'm fine with Race taking those," even though the most everybody else was not.
Right.
But so he's fine with it. I don't know if it's just a complete lack of confidence in Trey, but you got to put Miller Kopp in this category too, because he also had a high percentage, but didn't take as many. He took a few, but there's one he'd probably like to have back is that leaner he took against in the tournament. I mean, I don't know what the hell that was.
They took the lead. Yeah.
Yeah. But
did you listen to his podcast with Christian Watford and Derek Elson?
No, I haven't heard it yet.
He kind of implies in that one that they didn't run many plays for him to get threes. He kind of implies that he kind of got shots whenever there were shots to be gotten, but it wasn't like a priority for them to run many plays for him to get. I believe that. Yeah. So I mean, it's part of a growth pattern of any coach. I mean, this is year 3 for Mike Woodson. He's an NBA lifer who's coming into the college game and it's played different. He had an All-American center. He maximized him. He made him better. He's going to be a higher draft pick than he would have been a couple of years ago. But now it's time to change and adjust. And we'll really see what he wants to do as he puts this roster together. And it's not going to be easy because he's going to be putting it together with transfer portal guys. And as we know, the competition for the really good transfer portal guys is fierce. It's not like some of these high school guys, like we have a top 5. These transfer portal guys, you see their list, they have like a top 20. And you're doing well to get a Zoom call. Then if you get them on campus, you're doing really well. And then that's the moment of truth, because I think for a lot of them, the way they want to know, like, A, how are you going to use me? Because I've only got a year or 2 to play. How am I going to be highlighted? And B, what's my NIL? And so there's a lot of pressure on that staff right now to bring in impactful players.
Well, and not only that, you've got the guys that stayed because collectives and schools, they can in essence renegotiate the NIL deal directly with the player if they are a returning player. So they can kind of work those deals and keep them happy. But then now you've got to work these deals for all these 7 new players. 7. That's a lot to deal with. That's a lot for the NIL people to deal with. That's a lot for the coaches to deal with, because not only are you worrying about the actual player and how they fit and all this, now you got this business side that you've got to work out. And that's basically a negotiation, and that there's no giving, because they're also doing the same thing with other schools. So it's making recruiting definitely more difficult. I don't know if it's going to slow it down a whole lot, because one of the guys that IU is looking at, Jalen DeRoche from VCU, he said he hopes to have his visits or any visits and his decision done by end of May. Right. That's not a long time off. So
he's the kid who's at least committed to making a visit. So that means he's at least serious. If you're going to go to the trouble of traveling from Richmond, Virginia to Bloomington, Indiana, you're at least serious about it. So yeah, that's obviously one to keep an eye on. And I saw today on Peegs, they've reported a kid by the name of Dalton. I think it's Knecht, Knecht. He's a 6'6", 3-point shooter, has agreed to do a Zoom call with IU. So, I mean, they're in on some guys. And they just need to get at least 3, I'd say. And I don't know. I mean, the last couple of years, they've been fortunate to pick up a decommitment of a high school guy. I don't know. I haven't studied it closely enough to know what the coaching changes we've seen, how many guys have decommitted who would be interested and or available to Indiana. But, maybe there's a way to get a guy that way. But the portal stuff is just, yesterday I saw a couple of more pretty significant players go in the portal, guys who were good at the mid-major level. So, there's going to be more action as we go on.
Yep. And speaking of more action, of course, didn't we already know this, but in New York, Louisville, UConn, Texas, Indiana, playing in the Empire Classic next year at Madison Square Garden. Wasn't this already announced?
I'm pretty sure it was. It's just been a while, so we're hurting for basketball news and people.
I was going to say, I'm like, I know
what
that
I'm not aware of, though, is they haven't announced who's playing who, right? And they haven't announced. Is it like, do we know who the teams are going to play both days, or is it like winners play winners and losers play losers?
Oh, I didn't know it was a multi-game event.
It's a 2-day thing. I think it's a 2-day thing. Yeah.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Unless there's one game on one day and one day on the other, I don't know. But it's a 2-day event.
That would be extraordinary. That would be pretty fun.
If you're going to go all the way to New York, man, you need to give us 2 games.
You say it is a tournament. Just to clarify, it is a tournament.
It is a tournament.
I don't know. I'm assuming that the losers would play each other as well, just to have the same amount of games, but it is a tournament.
Very
the goal would be for Indiana and Louisville to avoid playing in the third place game early in the second night.
Yeah, MSG. How long has it been since you've been there? A couple of years, probably.
I haven't been to MSG since maybe when I covered Louisville in the Big East tournament in 2012, maybe.
Oh wow, really? The Big Ten was there in what, 19? I think.
Yeah, the last time I was up there, the ACC tournament was at the Barclays Center. That was the last time I went. That was maybe, I don't know, 2016 or 17. Might have been 17.
I'm looking forward to it. It's just a great place.
Bring money.
Oh yeah, definitely bring money. What's up next for you, man? A lot going on. No, not at this moment, but coming up. We've got the Indiana All-Stars that we talked about with Kyle Neddenriep from the Indiana Star earlier that were announced. So that doesn't happen until June, but that stuff starts coming up. Who's going to be Mr.
Basketball in Indiana? I'm just curious.
You know what? That's a good
Colvin?
question.
Roosevelt Colvin, I guess.
That, or what about the guy from Cathedral who led them to the state championship?
Last year. He didn't do it this year.
Well, yeah, not Cathedral. Ben Davis.
Okay.
Daggone, blowing a blank on his name right now. But then you got Sam Orme from Carmel. I mean,
where's he going? Is he another guy going to Purdue from Carmel?
I was going to say, I think he's
going to Xavier. He's not a Purdue guy. I know that.
He's not.
Okay. I got to clarify if you give me a second, but I think he's going to Xavier.
Going to go battle it out with Logan Duncombe.
Did he already commit to?
I'm taking a
Logan Duncombe committed to Xavier yesterday. Yeah,
good for him.
Sam Warm is still undecided. Actually,
sounds like Duncombe wanted to go home. So
yeah, yeah. Plus, he's going to a good team. I mean,
Oh, excuse me. He's committed to Belmont. I know we're talking about two different guys right now. Sam Orme is going to Belmont.
Going to Nashville. Maybe he's going to work on his music career. Songwriting. Be a musician, country singer. Rick Bozich, cannot thank you enough, brother. Have a good weekend.
There's a lot of buzz too over this kid Marcus Burton from Penn who's going to Notre Dame. A lot of people think he's really good.
Oh yes, and I had the conversation with Kyle that this is not. It's a deep class, but it's not one of Indiana's best classes as far at the top.
No,
Kyle pointed out it is really deep, but next year you're going to see the Indianas and the Purdues and Michigan States together again, like you normally do. So. Big year next year with guys that Indiana's been in with. And so we'll see. Plus Flory Badunga.
Purdue's already got 2 commits in next year's class, and the Benter kid from Brownstown Central and Catchings from Brownsburg.
Yep, and 2 good ones. Those are 2 good ones. But, and they keep, and not saying those guys are, but, Purdue's way of doing things also does not seem to equate to success in NCAA play.
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, it certainly hasn't in 40 years because they haven't been to a Final Four since 1980.
That's true.
Oh, man. All right, Rick, enjoy your weekend.
All right, you too.
You and Ruby have a great walk today.
We'll do that. Thank you, Jim.
Appreciate you. Rick Bozich today from WDRB.com. Make sure you give him a follow if you're not already. Let's see. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, and we'll be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the market for...
All right, we'll have about 9 minutes here to wrap up.
Beautiful,
I with K-Bro for tomorrow. See if he's able to come on with us.
What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so when do you want Colin?
I sent you the options, either 9:10 or 10:10.
Well,
and if you want any other time, I'll also tell somebody that we don't want them.
Hold on. I thought 10:10 was Jeff Schroeder from
Was that for Thursday or Friday? Let me look back and see.
I've got it on Thursday. I don't have anything on Friday yet.
Let me see. Yeah, that's right. We do have Schroeder for Thursday, so you can do Colin Hartman Friday at 10:10 if you want. Bill, you'd have to.
Okay, so what do we have tomorrow?
Matt Taylor, Kyler Staley, and Kristen Airy.
Kyler's coming on?
Is he not? Is he not supposed to?
Well, he doesn't work for the Hoosier anymore.
Excuse me. Well, neither does Alec, but we're having Alec on. Still, right? Yeah. That's totally up to you. You haven't told me either way if you want to keep both of them or not.
Text him and see if he wants to.
Who, Kyler?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
do you want me to ask him if he still wants to come on weekly or if he just wants to come on tomorrow?
Just tomorrow for right now. And then what's Friday? What do we already have?
Hold on.
Who the fuck is sending out 7 text messages? Oh, openings for tomorrow.
The only opening we have on Friday is 10:10.
Are you shitting me? That's awesome.
Yes.
What's your schedule?
Alex, Zach, and Dusty May.
Oh shit! I forgot about that. God damn it, dumbass. Yo,
okay, if you want, move Colin Hartman to Monday. If he can wait that long, because Monday we only have Dustin DePirick.
We don't have much. Okay, but we still have to get something for tomorrow.
Well, I'm clarifying with Kyler, but we'll see. All right, here we go. 10 seconds.
Be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday. Probably not going to be playing much golf out there around central Indiana, at least. Or northern Indiana, it looks like. Kind of stormy today, but could be some sun as well. Sounds like a typical spring day, especially in early April.
You know what they say, right? The old, I don't even know what you call it, like this classic saying, April showers do bring May flowers. Is that true in the state of Indiana? I would think so.
Well, I don't even know how to respond to that. I don't think
that sounds like something that would have come out of Dustin Schuette's mouth, right?
Exactly, and my response would have been, well, I don't think that Indiana's excluded from that. There's no moratorium. They haven't been banned, to my knowledge.
This is the time of year I wish I lived in. Well, maybe not quite, but if it was the summertime, which we're not quite there yet, this is when I would wish I lived in the northern part of the Midwest. I bet they have perfect summers. I bet Pete can attest to that. I know they have brutal winters, but I bet they have perfect summers.
Well, I'll tell you, there's someone that listens, and I'm sorry I can't remember who it is, but someone listens from the UP. One of our frequent commenters, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I can tell you right now, I remember having a rodeo in New Albany on a Friday night, and it was hot, muggy. Oh my God, you're dying at midnight. You're dying. And so we get done, and I got to leave because I got to take off and drive all night because I had to be in the UP at 2 p.m. the next afternoon. Met my partner in Madison, Wisconsin. But that night before, I was just dripping wet sweat.
Ugh.
That next night, I'm wearing a coat. I'm wearing a jacket. Because
insane.
No humidity, beautiful. Once the sun goes down, temperature drops. It's beautiful up there in the summer.
And so that's the number one thing I dislike about Southern Indiana and I guess the Louisville area of Kentucky is the humidity. It is, and I guess it's probably the same way throughout most of Indiana, but humidity is one of the worst things that
it sucks
on this earth.
Yeah, it sucks. Let's see. Who was it? Andrew just said he's hopeful. He's a hopeful guy, hoping that IU and the Reds return to prominence. Yeah, I'd put IU in one hand and the Reds in another hand and wish and see which one fills up first, because that Reds is going to be kind of like magic dust. It's going to just go to nowhere. I don't see them ever returning to prominence.
Is tomorrow for the first hour of the show.
Oh, I can't wait.
Again.
Pete asking when we pick up Hoosier football spring coverage. Actually, spring practices, there's some practice going on now. I'd love to be out at the practices, but we're doing the show.
Are they closing it off again?
Well, no, it's open right now. I can't get out there.
Okay. I just didn't know if they were pulling what they did last year and saying nobody can attend spring practice.
No, but I will probably try to do a show from out there next week. But you can go to thehoosier.com for updates on IU football right now. The one thing I do know is that they don't know who their quarterback's going to be. And this time, I truly believe that. Before, it's just been gamesmanship, BS. We always knew who the starter was going to be, and they wouldn't announce it. Oh, and I got whatever that was. Well, this time, I believe it's real. Who the hell would start? I mean, Taven Jackson, I don't think that he would have the ability without having gone through spring at least, but he wouldn't have just been named the starter automatically. No way. The guy that did start the end of the season is hurt and not playing. And you have two other options. So it's going to be interesting.
I think and I know I'm not anybody, and you never know what Tom Allen's going to do, but you don't just go and pull somebody who was a former 5-star recruit out of the transfer portal and not start him, unless he just doesn't live up to his rating. Maybe he's not as good as he was supposed to be. I mean, he obviously he left Tennessee for a reason. But here's the thing. I'm currently on the side where if you don't start Taven Jackson, then I don't know what you're doing. He should be the most talented quarterback in the room. He should be. Maybe he's not showing it yet, but he should be.
And I'm not saying he is or is not because I haven't seen it. Should be and is are two different things.
Yes.
But also you've got to, there's a lot of changes for him that he has to make. Changes in the offense, changes in just everything. Coaches, teammates. He's going through, you transfer to a football team. That's a big change, bigger than basketball.
Absolutely.
bigger than
You can't escape the
pretty much
Jackson
any of
family
us.
in Bloomington, even though Trace is gone. You got a new Jackson in town.
The Jackson 2, baby.
That's right. You probably see Trace a lot of football games if he's not busy doing NBA basketball. I'm sure. I mean, obviously he'll be doing something with his basketball career, but I'm sure for fans of TJD, I'm sure you'll see him at a football game or two supporting his brother.
Steve asked, why doesn't the Big Ten Network show the IU spring game? I don't think they have the past 2 to 3 years. Indiana has not really had a true spring game, have they?
1 minute.
They've just done kind of scrimmages, whatnot, but you don't have fans there hardly. It's not a great look. You don't think of football, I can probably think of 10 reasons why. We'll get into more of that tomorrow if you want. We've got a great lineup for set with, that was today's. Matt Taylor joining us, Kyler Staley, probably Jeff Shorter, and we'll see who else. Oh, yeah.
And K-Bro.
K-Bro. So big thanks to everybody today. Of course, Bob Kravitz. Big thanks to Rick Bozich. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to you. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. And we're grateful that you give us that opportunity. We're back again to do it tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.